Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on February 20th, 2017, and this is a show that was definitely more story building with a couple of, or not a couple, but at least one surprisingly good match in there, in the terms of it's a shock that that match was actually kind of good. But we'll go off and start the way that the show started with Kevin Owens. Basically, like no entrance music, no nothing. Kevin Owens just in the ring, spotlight on him, and that was his basically beginning of the promo was now that the spotlight is finally directly on me. And then he starts going into more talking about his match with Goldberg, and you could tell definitely the change of tone in Kevin Owens at this time. His character has transitioned back to where he was when he started in NXT, also starting up on the main roster. He's not necessarily as jokey as he was with his area with Chris Jericho, and it came off in this promo, saying what he was going to do to Goldberg, trying to make it believable that he is going to, beat Goldberg at Fastlane. And his promo came off rather well. I like the aspect that he was in business suit and everything. He kept it to Goldberg as well. I actually like that in the end because he gives even more emphasis on how much disdain he has for Chris Jericho at this time by saying, at the end of the promo after he gets done talking about Goldberg, he says, and as for Chris Jericho goes, doesn't even bother to speak, just drops the mic and walks off. I thought this was a very good promo from Kevin Owens. A good way of reestablishing what he was when he had started up on the main roster, and also where where they probably want to try to depict Kevin Owens going into his match with Goldberg as a person who is a viable threat. Like that was the one hard thing to come off as for him, where he was at in his character was being a viable threat to Goldberg in that match in any way. So I liked how they ended up depicting him off in this one, and it came off rather well. So this leads to what was it? This leads to later in the night. Kevin Owens looks like he's about to leave the building. Mick Foley stops him. This is a quick backstage segment and says he's going to have a match with Kevin Owens, or not Kevin Owens, but a match with Sami Zayn later in the night. And I like the line that Kevin Owens gives is like, "I thought you liked Sami." It's like just that aspect of saying, "Oh, I'm gonna injure." It's like, I'm gonna injure this guy, or he's gonna get injured tonight. And he also even gives a warning. It's like, if you're not careful, you're gonna have more people on the injury list than you will have on the roster. Moment. So you again depicting that different tone of Kevin Owens, and again, it came off really well. I was enjoying Kevin Owens this week in the aspect of his changes towards everything and showing his disdain towards what he was, showing almost disdain towards where he was at before reverting back to where he was. Up next, they had Enzo and Cass going up against Cesaro and Sheamus, and the aspect behind this match was that this would determine the number one contendership for the Raw Tag Team titles. This match was fine. It was kind of what it usually is with Enzo and Cass. Like, Enzo gets beat up for a little bit. Cass kind of comes in and and Cass would come in and get the win. The match itself, like I said, was fine. It was decent. Good action from Cesaro and Sheamus. Good interactions this week. No crazy bad botches like we had seen last week with Enzo, which was probably one of the worst botches on TV we've seen in quite some time to go along with it. But none of that happened this week. Enzo and Cass actually pick up the victory here, and they picked up the victory cleanly after Cass had gotten rid of Sheamus, and then hit Sheamus with the East River Crossing. I think that's what he's calling that move. And they pick up the win. At the end, you have Enzo. You have Enzo continually talking trash, which causes Sheamus to brogue kick Enzo and basically destroy him. I guess subtly turn Sheamus and Cesaro heel. I don't really think so. In that sense, it's like, okay, he was getting taunted too much, and he got kicked in the face, and that's kind of where Sheamus usually has been. He's the guy who would always do the attack afterwards. But you also get that little wrist bump from Cesaro and Sheamus, as they're still kind of cohesive at this point in time. So you don't really know exactly what that means. It might just be one of those extra things like, oh, Sheamus gets sick and tired of Enzo talking trash at the end of the match. Boom, done. And we'll see if that leads off to anything in any way, shape, or form. Up next, and we got this a couple times tonight. Kind of. Well, this particular type of thing a couple times tonight. You had Brian Kendrick was going to go up against Akira Tazawa. Kendrick showing a completely different side. Like, they showed everything that happened on 205 Live, and I love the aspect of how Kendrick was trying to get Akira Tozawa to, be buddy with him, and it was like, I'm gonna be your mentor here and everything, and everything's gonna be great. And Akira Tozawa was just like, nope, not gonna happen. He even says it in the overly dramatic tone of like, nope, to go along with it. And Kendrick even says like, oh, you must not understand. No, I understand. I just don't like you. Walks off. Love Akira Tozawa. I'm liking where they're going with him. Or at least I'm liking how he's being depicted right now. He gets depicted a little bit weak in this sense because, Kendrick was seething throughout the entire moment. And as they were doing the handshake, it's like, Akira Tozawa doesn't want to shake his hand, but you see like Kendrick fury in his eyes, like, shake my hand, and just attacks Akira Tozawa and going after his neck. And I kind of like this aspect of where they went with it, because you do have to have Kendrick, be over as viable threat in particular feuds. So the match never gets going, and basically Kendrick leaves Tozawa lying, which is going to lead to another match on 205 Live. To go along with it. Kendrick cuts a promo afterwards talking about being disrespected and everything in that sense. And, it played off rather well. I kind of liked it. Even though you didn't get the match for it, you ended up getting something relatively good, and it leads into their program on 205 Live. If you're not watching, hopefully you'll give it at least a shot at some point. I've definitely given 205 Live a shot, and I watch it whenever I get a chance. It's one of those bits where I'm doing a lot of other reviews and a lot of other stuff. You don't usually get to watch everything in the end, and sometimes you miss certain things. And you have to put priorities in there in the sense of, am I going to be able to watch this? Am I not going to be able to watch this? Where are we going with everything? So sometimes I get to watch 205 Live. Sometimes I don't, in that sense. Up next, though, you had a backstage promo with Roman Reigns and Mick Foley. Just basically, again, like Foley's like, you cannot go out there and attack Braun at any given or during his match tonight with the Big Show. And it's like, okay, like Roman's just like, okay, you can have your main event. It's just whenever it ends, I'm going after him and everything in that sense. But he also gets interrupted by Gallows and Anderson, and again, they make a handicap match in here. And I like the aspect of how Roman comes off so overconfidently, because Foley was about to give him a tag team partner. It's like, you find a tag team partner, I'll make the match. Like, nah, no tag team partner. Like, we'll just do this. Just walks off. Again, just walks off. It came off rather well that way. And of course, Gallows and Anderson are happy to go along with it. The match itself with Gallows and Anderson and Roman Reigns, which was right afterwards, was an alright match. It was your typical two-on-one style. They have control for a little while, but Roman gets a few moves in. But Gallows and Anderson eventually bring in a chair. He fights them off, and again, we're gonna make our tag team champions look extremely weak by having one guy take them both out. Technically, they get the win, but Roman Reigns ends out standing tall in the end. Though I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The spear tonight looked really good. The spear Roman Reigns did on Carl Anderson looked really good. Carl Anderson came off the top rope, gets caught with a spear after coming off the top. I thought that looked really good, but again, you're making your tag champs kind of look like chumps to one guy again, and it's not a good way. It just doesn't feel like it's a good way of going. But it is what it is, I guess, in that sense. But I'm not a big fan of that aspect of it. They could come up with a better way. They want to do 2-on-1. They can do it with a team that's not necessarily as prominent or something in that sense. But up next was, again, another tag team match. What do you know? It's tag team match night. We have Jinder Mahal and Rusev going up against the New Day. Before the match, they're cutting a promo. Basically, how the New Day's the host of WrestleMania, and what are they, and everything that they're going to be doing over the next so many months, and then they start talking about the ice cream plans again, and it's like, oh, we've gone digital now, and then of course you have Lana in the ring with an iPad of her own. They both had iPads, and it's like, oh, you mean these plans? It starts reading them off. It's like, oh man, only if hacking was that easy. I'm not saying that it's not feasible to be able to go from one iPad to another or hack in and do something like that, or she could have just somehow gotten their password or something like that to the actual iPad. I'm thinking of other kayfabe ways that making this actually work. But it's like, geez, if hacking was only that easy, and everybody'd be doing it. And nothing in this world would be safe in any way, shape, or form. Though, I think it was Big E who's who does make the line in there. It's like, you guys do know she's Russian moment, that playing off of everything that's been happening in public areas with the Russian hacks and everything to go along with that. So they do get that line in there. They do play off something during the match itself again was decent. Woods destroys that poor iPad. That poor iPad. What he does is that, Rusev and Jinder Mahal were down on the outside of the ring. Lana's trying to get them to get back up, and then she gets scared because Xavier Woods uses Francesca to, makes the makes a noise with Francesca and scares her, throws the iPad up, and he catches it, and ends out destroying the iPad. So it's quote unquote keeping the plan safe. Again, if hacking was only that easy, and then destroying the hacks were only that easy to go along with it, because you know what would probably happen if a person actually hacked someone else, they wouldn't just keep it in one place. They would probably have it in about 15 others to go along with it. Again, like I said, if it was only that easy, if it was only that easy, and everything. But again, match was fine. New Day does pull off the victory in the match, and came off all right. But it was a lot of stretching for your disbelief on that one, at least for me. At least for me. I guess for a few other people that they would be, I guess some people would go with it that way and everything, and it was all in good fun to go along with it, so it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't, I wasn't a big fan of this segment in any way. But I was a big fan of the next segment, and oddly enough, it was with a contract signing. They had a contract signing with Jack Gallagher and Neville. Basically, they had Gallagher out there, and you have Austin Aries, who was doing great himself on the microphone as well. And they do real quick quips about, Gallagher kind of just cuts a small, quick promo about potentially winning the match and calling Neville a so-called king and everything in that sense. And then signs the contract. Neville comes out right afterwards, and it's like, no, he wanted to go no words, just sign the contract, leave. Gallagher does the aspect of offering up tea and biscuits. The gentlemanly way of doing things. And I loved Neville's promo, and I love the response from Gallagher too. Neville goes off and says, it's like, why are you being so stereotypical? And it was that was basically his promo towards Gallagher. Is like, why are you being so stereotypical of what the Americans think the British are and everything in that sense? No, this is what a real British man is. And Gallagher is like, Gallagher does go out there. It's like, I'm not playing gentleman. I am a gentleman. It's like it was good stuff from Gallagher and Neville, which does eventually lead to them, yes, with a quick brawl that Gallagher gets the advantage of. I like this segment. This was very good. I also like the aspect of like you had Austin Aries like after Gallagher signs it. It's like instead of saying it's like it's like, okay, there's your John Hancock, as most people call a signature. It's like he calls it Jack Hancock to play it off of Jack Gallagher's name. I like the certain aspects of that. And like I said, the segment came off really good. I actually rather enjoyed this one. And it's very rare, at least main roster side, that a contract signing actually comes off good. And this is one of those. We've seen some better variations of the contract signing. They've definitely been changing up how the contract signing works within WWE. To, yeah, you still get maybe a brawl or something like that, but they kind of change it up to make it a little bit more insightful, more entertaining, and you get nice little quips in there, and then you also get relatively good promos most of the time now. And that's what these need to be. Like, they needed to be a change where there was an aspect that's like, oh, there's a simple like formula. It's like cut basic promo, brawl. Okay. It's like cut basic promo, sign contract, brawl. Do it. No, now you're getting good promos. Also, you're doing it a little bit different where you have one guy out there, he signs the contract, and then the champion comes out to sign the contract to go along with it. Like, they change it up just a little bit nowadays to make it at least seem a little bit more relevant and a little bit more entertaining to go along with. So I'm kind of glad for the aspect of this contract signing and like where they've been going with it. Up next was Nia Jax going up against Sarah Pierce. Quick match, nothing really much to talk about. The whole aspect behind this one is Nia Jax cutting a promo afterwards, basically putting whoever was going to be champion on notice, and basically just saying she wants a title match in that sense of everything. And Nia Jax is coming off a little bit better on the microphone. I feel like. I still feel like she was probably called up a little early, but she hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination since coming up to the main roster as well. So up next though was the Bayley promo. Bayley comes out to address everything from the week before about winning the Raw Women's title and the controversy and everything in that sense. She cuts a very impassionate promo about, about her dreams and everything in that sense, and also, talking to her father the week before. And this brings out Stephanie McMahon. And again, I feel like they're gonna use Stephanie as like a catalyst to be the person to shut down Bayley or try to shut down Bayley. And, something else for her to overcome. The aspect that Stephanie McMahon does not want her around, doesn't want her type around in any way, being champion or anything like that. And, Stephanie kind of even comes off in that condescending voice trying to convince Bayley, like, oh, you don't want it this way. You only want it the other way. Even though they do, like everybody else plays it off. It's like the only reason why Sasha comes out is because Dana came out from beforehand with everything in that aspect. And they do a good job of teasing that Bayley's actually going to relinquish the women's title tonight. Playing off the aspect that, yeah, she really wants to win it one-on-one without any help, without anybody out there. It plays off of how that character is, and they do tease that aspect really well before Bayley decides to keep the title, but also throws out there is like, I will defend this title no matter what, no matter who, no matter where, and all that kind of stuff, playing into the character still more and more on that sense. And I really, really did like where this promo went. They did a good job, and Bayley came off a lot better on the microphone this week. It felt a lot more natural from where they've been going and where she has been on the microphone recently. And the aspect of how Stephanie even comes off in this one came off really good, because she was like condescendingly talking to Bayley about like everything to go along with it, and it played off a lot more to go along with that. So it came off rather well. Sasha comes out during this time as to go along with it, and Stephanie even plays up potential tensions between Sasha and Bayley. It's like, oh, Sasha's only doing this because she thinks she can beat you, but she can't beat Charlotte and everything. Good promo. Good promo. Charlotte does come out, and this does eventually lead to Sasha and Charlotte in a match afterwards. The two of them put on a good match. Basically the same ending as last week, just kind of in reverse. Dana Brooke was going to come out. Bayley comes down and prevents Dana from even getting involved in the match in any way, which does have Sasha putting on the bank statement and beating Charlotte in that case. So overall, good couple of segments there. Actually, Raw was rather enjoyable this week. This was a surprisingly good show this week. They did a really good job going into Fastlane here. Up next was a promo from Sami Zayn. Basically talking about his match that night from going up against Kevin Owens, but also talking about the aspect is, not that nothing was done between him and Samoa Joe and everything in that sense, and also kind of, running down Joe and Owens for how they decide to do things and everything in that sense. Not a bad promo from Sami Zayn. This leads into the match itself, which Joe attacks Sami Zayn before the match, leaving him lying. Again, playing the whole aspect of how Joe wants to be depicted. It's like, you say his name, he wants you to put respect behind it, but nobody, like Sami Zayn, didn't respect him, so now he comes out and beats down Sami Zayn. So I'm assuming that's going to lead to a Fastlane match, I would assume. And of course, Sami Zayn gets rolled in the ring, and he wants to have the match and everything in that sense. And of course, Kevin Owens just destroys him afterwards. Good way of depicting it. Not even letting it even feel like Zayn could potentially come back in any way. It just came off rather well, and I did personally like where they decided to go storyline-wise on this aspect. I also liked how they depicted the match as well. Kevin Owens is extremely vicious in the match, but now Sami Zayn was also beaten down, so he can't necessarily defend himself in any way. So Zayn gets zero offense in. I liked how they came off with this match. Up next was a couple promos. First, you have backstage with Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon, and again, tensions are rising between the two of them. And Foley is coming off more and more on the aspect that he is defending himself the way that Stephanie treats him on the show. And it's like Stephanie's sitting there trying to treat him as he's stupid and everything like that. It's like, and he lets Stephanie know, it's like, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's because she was like, where were you during that moment where, Sasha and Bayley were disrespecting me? Because she felt like she was being disrespected, though she was kind of disrespecting both of them to go along with it. So it's like a tit for tat on that one. And Foley was like, yeah, I was thinking about coming out there, but show my support towards Bayley and everything in that sense. And she's just like, you do know what you're doing. It's like, eventually Mick's like, why are you treating me so dumb? Of course I know what I'm doing. It's just, I don't want your greed and your husband's greed. It's like, it even plays it off as like, because I took the job because I listened to you, I believed in you, I trusted you, and because of that, again, Seth Rollins is on the shelf. And playing all of that aspect on there, which they are not teasing, or they're actually giving off that next week Seth Rollins is going to be doing an interview talking about the knee injury and everything to go along with that. But he's like, yeah, I know I'm doing career suicide. I don't care. in that sense. And again, tensions are rising, and this is probably one of the few times throughout this entire time, because I know a lot of people have had issues with Stephanie McMahon and how she is depicted, and that she kind of sucks the life out of everything. I like the aspect that, you know, they're now allowing the faces to kind of stand up a little bit more in that sense, and it makes it come off a little bit better when Stephanie's out there kind of belittling people, because now people are standing up to it. It makes it come off a little bit better, where like beforehand there was like zero ramifications for Stephanie McMahon getting into someone's face or anything like that. It's like, oh, she just does it. Now it's like, or she might even slap somebody to go along with it. Now they're kind of like, oh, you get somebody, it's like you get something from her and then someone throws something back. And that is definitely a lot better, and it's going to be a better way of going, because it's a lot, like, it's okay, it makes it a little bit more impactful when Stephanie gets her way, or when the face ends out winning as well, that, you know, you can expect someone to, you know, fight back in some way, instead of like, oh, she's just going to do what she's going to do and whatever. And everything in that sense. So I like these segments tonight because they came off on that aspect that there's like a true, not necessarily power struggle, but there's like a true aspect of the baby face that Stephanie McMahon is trying to run down is going to stand up for themselves and try to overcome everything that she's throwing at them. So, like I said, it came off a lot better this week. So up next was an interview from Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, mostly, well, complete aspect Heyman. I like the aspect of how Michael Cole was talking about everything that Goldberg had done. It's like, this leads to the question, since they have the title match, and Paul Heyman just interrupts him. It's like, we know where you're going with this. Lower your tone, step away. And Brock even gets up. Cole just runs. He grabs the chair and is just like sitting there in front of the camera as Paul Heyman is just talking. So he's just sitting there staring into the camera with Paul talking behind him. And even going to the aspect is like, Paul, and this is what I like about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman will put someone over, but he will also say that his client, Brock Lesnar, completely disagrees. And it was with the aspect of Kevin Owens. It's like Brock Lesnar doesn't feel like Kevin Owens can beat Goldberg in any way, cannot shock the world and beat Goldberg. But Paul Heyman goes out there on the aspect is like that Paul Heyman will say is like, I personally believe Kevin Owens is ready for Goldberg. He has the potential of shocking the world, but my client, Brock Lesnar, disagrees. And this was just good promo. Good promo where, you know, it's depicting, Heyman's depicting Brock as the person who's ready to fight Goldberg at WrestleMania and wants the Universal title, and of course wants Goldberg to win the match so he can take one more thing from him at WrestleMania. But also a good aspect of Heyman putting that over, but putting over the fact that he feels like Kevin Owens can actually do it. Like, he's actually putting over Kevin Owens to go along with it. And that was a good way of going with it on the promo. And it just, like, it makes that aspect of feeling like, okay, someone does believe in Kevin Owens winning outside of, like, just the typical people that you would expect to go along with it. You know, like, even someone who's associated with Brock Lesnar feels that way, but even though Brock doesn't feel that way. So good way of going, good promo from Paul Heyman in this sense. Up next, this actually brings us to the main event of the night, and there was a piece of me that was kind of shocked that they were going off on making this the main event, but they even showed, and I do like the aspect that they say there's so much potential weight in the ring that they have to reinforce the ring. They even show the ring crew like tightening up everything and putting up a few little extra things to try to prevent the ring from falling apart if it was potential on that one. They did a good job of depicting the magnitude of the match with Braun Strowman and the Big Show. And this is that match that I thought was surprisingly good. Again, Braun showing the amazing athleticism. He gets taken down early on in the match with like a wrist lock, and he does a kip up. Like, just leaps up, lands on his feet. That was good athleticism. And the match, like I said, the match itself was actually surprisingly good between both of them. A lot of big man versus big man matches kind of are that lumbering. They don't really show too much athleticism. It's just like punch, punch, punch. They were showing a lot more in this match, and it came off rather well. And I found this match to be really, really enjoyable. Especially for a big man match. Braun Strowman does get the win in the end. I like the aspect that it took 2 power slams from Braun Strowman to get the victory, and he even does one in the middle of the ring where he doesn't have like potential ropes to help him up or anything, to help anything in that sense. And Braun just gains the victory on this one. It was surprisingly good, and they gave it a good chunk of time too. It wasn't like a 5-minute match or anything. I think they gave him a good 10, maybe 15. I forget. But it was a lot longer than it was expected to be, and it was a lot better than I expected it to be as well. Roman Reigns' music hits right afterwards. He comes out to go after Braun Strowman. Strowman gets hit with a couple of Superman punches, but eventually gains control and does this running drop kick as Roman Reigns is going for the spear, and eventually takes out Roman to end the night. Oh no, not a bad Raw this week. I actually don't. This is one of those few times like I found a few segments that were like, okay, I didn't really care for this one. I didn't really care for that. Here's something I didn't really care for. But overall, I found the show to be rather enjoyable this week. Overall, as a whole, I thought Raw was pretty good this week. It wasn't by far the greatest thing you've ever seen in the world. A lot of this was promo. And building up towards Fastlane, and also building up towards WrestleMania stuff and everything in that sense, which is completely fine because the stories that they were going for and the promos to further those stories actually came off rather good to go along with it. So, I can't really say I hated this Raw. There was parts of it I didn't care for, but overall, as a whole, I thought this was a pretty good Raw. So, with that being said, guys, that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.